The following content is not suitable for all viewers. Discretion is strongly advised.
The content of this story may not be suitable for all viewers, as topics that some may find sensitive may be explored. So I implore you, if you think you may be offended by strong content, this video may not be for you. Other than that, it is just a story. Either way, viewer discretion is strongly advised.
Let's begin.
Hey there, scary story fanatics. Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. Are you all ready to play? Well, be careful how you answer. Ambiguity can be a real killer. But if you've got a strong stomach, stick around. It's going to be a messy good time with tonight's meaty tale that I like to call Carnality's Playground.
Warm, sanguine fluid oozed forth from the wound, saturating the surrounding snow. Its residual heat melted frost and caused steam-like vapors to rise from the ground. The woman stood nearly motionless, smiling, staring down at the man laying next to the vehicle that he was paid to repair. As she wiped the liquid tissue from the sharp blade, putting it back in its sheath, she couldn't help but keep grinning. Everything had worked out even better than she had planned. By the time they had found the little shack, it had already grown late in the day. No one knew if anyone lived there, and if they did, that they would be so agreeable to allow them sanctuary from the cold. Luke and Sasha were still on guard upon entry, even after calling out to whomever may reside within, and received no response in return. Mike and Brina, however, were not so wary, far too engrossed in each other to be concerned as to whom may find them out. The frigid, northeastern winter air, combined with a broken-down vehicle, prompted the quartet to locate shelter as soon as possible. The only structure that they had seen in over a mile was an abandoned hunting cabin, set so deep within a tree line that if it had not been for the skeletal branches of winter decitus, it would have been passed up entirely. The group had more than one phone amongst them and had called for assistance, but they were told said help would likely not arrive until the following morning due to the severity of road conditions. Out of people to call for help, and otherwise out of options, the four of them trekked along a desolate winter road in hopes of discovering what they had. Now inside, assured that there was no one within, Sasha and Luke took in the rustic and woody motif that enveloped them, shielding them from the bitter cold outside. In the corner of the largest room, adorned with couches and a throw rug, sat a beautifully ornate fireplace, a small stack of wood beside it, just waiting to be transformed into warmth-giving BTUs. Luke informed the group that he had to seek out a bathroom, as he was in desperate need of one, but only Sasha heard him. Mike and Brina were so completely wrapped up in a lustful and passionate moment, running upstairs to find an open bedroom, they completely ignored any other happenings from their friends or circumstances. Standing there alone, Sasha noted a dreadful feeling wash over her, like a shadow of ominous doom that wrapped her up like a blanket. Something unsettled her, and although she could find no dark element to add credence to this feeling, Sasha felt it all the same. Something wasn't right. When Luke returned, not only did he take note of the loud thumping and moaning coming from somewhere above him on the second floor, he also spied Sasha doing something curious. Sasha was near to the fireplace, the corner of the rug curled upward and gripped in hand, and whatever she was looking at, it seemed to reside under the once flat carpet. Sasha turned to look at Luke with confusion written all over her face, scripted by expression. Sasha explained how she attempted to load the fireplace with wood and tripped over the carpet, revealing what she had found. The loud thumping continued from upstairs as the pair moved the couch so as to pull up the rest of the rug, revealing simultaneously all that was hidden beneath. Both Sasha and Luke stopped, staring down at the inscriptions scrawled in red, written directly upon the wood hidden by the previously placed throw rug. Much of what was legible was a language neither of them understood, but one thing was absolutely certain: the circular design of the space and words within, the intentional concealment, and the implications of dark incantations, all said one thing: they needed to get out of there. Sasha turned to Luke to say as such, but was cut off by the thudding and groaning from upstairs intensifying, reaching the heights of a scream or a violent commotion. Bound by loyalty, curiosity, and naivety, the pair simultaneously turned and ran up those rickety old stairs, side by side, stopping short of the noted bedroom door that both Mike and Brina resided behind. Luke turned to Sasha, getting an assuring nod, before he turned the handle and slowly pushed the door open. At first, it took a moment to truly realize what it was they were looking at, and once they did, disequilibrium and shock took hold of them both, paralyzing them where they stood. What was playing out before their eyes was nothing short of a bloody and macabre ballet of flesh and gore. The two had already removed so much of each other's skin, both Mike and Brina were nearly unidentifiable, aside for a few small portions of their dermises that still clung loosely to the meat that remained attached to their skulls. Luke and Sasha watched on as Brina reached forward, gripping tight to Mike's abdomen at his right side, yanking in opposition, pulling skin and connective tissue back with force until the skin began to snap free like bits of rubber band. Red so thick it appeared black, immediately oozed vigorously from the fresh wound. The flesh tore free with a wet, elastic, squelching noise, and as soon as this hunk of meat was liberated, Brina dropped it to the floor beside the bed and simply plunged her whole fist, slowly but forcibly, inside the hole that she had just created. To the shock of the watchers on, Mike did not scream or cry out in pain. Instead, he groaned with a pleasure-filled moan, as if completely and holistically, sexually gratified. Luke instantly vomited the contents of his stomach to the floor right at his feet. Sasha instead moved 2 steps further into the room, attempting to pull the two of them free of each other, but as she did, the 2 piles of gore that retained the most basic semblance of 2 human forms toppled to the floor at the bedside with a wet, splattering thud. Sasha screamed at them, attempting to get them to stop, attempting to somehow end the nightmare being performed before her eyes, but her shouts did nothing. The 2 masses of exposed muscle and connective tissue that weeped intracellular fluids and blood from every inch of what remained of their bodies began writhing and moaning in movement, like 2 slippery worms joined in coitus. Sasha stood over them in shock as each let out one last pleasurable groan, followed by an airy sigh that coincided with their bodies going limp. She'd been unable to process a single cohesive thought before she was startled by a tight grip on her shoulder. Luke told her that they needed to get out of there, to find help, Sasha wanted to ask why they did this, but simply followed behind Luke as he pulled her down the stairs towards their escape from the cabin. Luke wasted no time once at the door, opening it with haste, ready to lunge out into the winter air, but instead, the pair was met by an infinite nothingness. No trees, no snow-covered ground, nothing but the bottomless and cavernous maw of grandiose nothingness. Before the duo could make a decision as to their next course of action, Luke was suddenly yanked backwards by something neither one of them saw until Sasha had turned to look. There, behind and holding onto Luke, were the remnants of what remained of their supposedly dead friends, their corpses bloody and nightmarish, faces mostly non-existent, and what tissue remained helped to curl the meat at the corners of exposed teeth, presenting a horrifically absurd representation of a sinister smile. Sasha reached for Luke, but in that same moment, bony digits and teeth began making short work of both Luke's clothes and flesh beneath. It seemed as though Luke was being undressed by being degloved, causing thousands of nerve endings to be torn away from the flesh beneath all at once. He screamed at the intense sensations of agony and for her to run, but she was already making haste. Luke's screams becoming more and more muffled with distance and obstruction. Sasha locked herself inside the kitchen pantry and prayed for both herself and her sanity. In the silence of the dark that surrounded her, Sasha found herself praying to whoever or whatever may be listening for a speedy escape. Unfortunately for her, the response to her pleas for celestial help were loud, thrashing bangs on the door, resulting from whatever was beating against it on the other side. Sasha screamed in dismay and sheer terror when the door burst open with a splintering boom. In through the door seeped in light and the creature that it shed details upon, for what lumbered toward her was Luke. Only now he was missing most of his skin, his feet leaving bloody footprints on the floor as he sauntered. And he had that same distant look in his eyes that Mike and Brina had shared. She fought, kicked, punched, but it was as if nothing she did had any effect at all. Sasha was thrown against the wall, and she was stripped of her clothing. She pleaded for him to stop, but what she feared most was what next indeed came to pass. The sensation of something solid yet slick with warmth and wet penetrated her being. She screamed again, but once more it had little effect. She could feel his skinless form pushing against her as she fought back, the wet slaps of flesh accompanied by the splattering of blood that leaked from every inch of his nightmarish figure. The feeling of musclephagia slapping at the backs of her thighs was nearly enough to make her vomit, but the whole experience was so surreal, her conscious mind seemed to leave her body, allowing whatever was happening to pass. But as the night drew on, the screaming never stopped. The only things to hear her cries were the trees and forest life that still indeed existed beyond the cabin's walls, and the one who silently watched on from within them. As the cabin door slowly creaked open, the woman peered inside at all the carnage that she had created. 2 skinless corpses lay at her feet, close to the rug and the symbol of which she had drawn. However, shortly thereafter, the sounds of a woman's cries and moans caught her attention, leading her towards the kitchen. There, she found the busted doorway to the pantry and the sight that lay beyond it. In the corner of the dark room lay a young woman, clutching her distended belly in 2 hands. At her side lay another, mostly skinless corpse, a large pool of blood, bile, and intracellular fluids collected underneath and around it. Sasha looked up at the woman, desperately hoping for help, but as she raised her arm, her abdomen burst open like an infectious cyst, which would cause her death. The last thing she would see was the creature that crawled out of the large wound. A baby, and then the woman approaching, picking up the child from the gore mound that was once its mother and embracing it in her arms. Sasha would never know the truth, would never know how perfectly things had gone. The old crone smiled down at the baby, happy her work was complete. There needed to be 5, and with 4 in the car, accompanied by the unexpected visit from the mechanic, it seemed almost like fate. From the barbed wire she had placed in the road to the incantation drawn on the floor, everything had gone seamlessly. The woman shut the cabin door behind her, leaving their lifeless bodies behind. Her work was done, and now it was time for the next step.
Well, seems I did always know where babies came from. They're summoned here from the darkness. Or at least, that's how it works sometimes, it would seem. But if you're still standing after that one, I'd implore you to let me summon you here again next weekend. And until then, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.
Social media can be very unpredictable, especially regarding horror content. If this content gets removed, all new content will be simultaneously presented on various websites provided in the description to this video. Make sure to follow me in other digital spaces so that you never miss out on the terror. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment and hit the like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy what's here, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Writing is a dream of mine, and it's all of you that make that dream come true.